I'm on the second day of trailing this lost ATV. Stolen, lost. And I skipped the grassy part because that was the easy stuff. So I've come up to here, and there's a whole lot of sign on here, and all of this stuff is fresh because of the fresh breaks. You can also see all this mud right here that was disturbed recently. You even got mud on the log, and you've got a big sort of a divot right here where the tire spun to get some traction going through here. This was a difficult place to get through. I'm told this is a two-wheel drive vehicle, not four-wheel drive, so obviously getting through here with two-wheel drive, a lot more difficult than four-wheel drive. There's a large amount of sign right here. To get to it, I have to go under a branch, but so look at how this is a plant called whitebark raspberry, and it normally obviously doesn't grow like this, all crunched up under the branches of the fallen pine. But you can see how the impact of the vehicle going over it has really disturbed these plants, knocked off leaves, and it should be growing upright like that. That's the normal appearance, but it's not because it was driven over. Some of the plants snagged on the bottom of the vehicle and were pulled forward and broken off, like this one here. And then on the other side you can see the parallel tire marks continuing. There's a lot of down trees on here. And this vegetation here, more whitebark raspberry, is also showing some damage from the impact of tires going over it. And then, of course, the damage to the ground, the disturbance to the ground that indicates passage through here. So they went this way instead of going that way. I don't know. So right here is pretty obvious. Here's some nice bruising that you can see on this vegetation, which is called foxglove, this plant digitalis. But it shows bruising very well because these are fairly succulent leaves. So they show the bruising quite easily. And you can probably even see some of the lugs right here, the shape, the outline of the lug from the wheel that hit that is visible in there. So then it's in the leaf litter, which is a little more difficult to see, but there's still disturbance to the soil, which you can see in parallel lines, although it's a lot more subtle in this flat leaf litter because this stuff really doesn't hold the sign very well. It's wet. If this was dry, it would just crackle, and it would be a lot easier to follow through here. So I'm going to skip that part and come up here to the next section of down trees. There's 1, 2, 3 trees down right here. So right here, there's some pine needles, and even from up here, you can see where there are fresh breaks on this branch. You can see the disturbance through here, but the breaks are pretty obvious from way back there, and then you get closer and the color of the fresh breaks stands out. So here there's sort of a ridge where one of the tires made a track, and it looks like they just went right through there. So this is the normal appearance of the fallen branches of the tree. And then over here, you can see some of the leaves have been turned over the wrong way. There's just a kind of a area right there of disturbance in the soil. Here's some scuffing where some bark was rubbed off. And then this break. Here's more scuffing where bark was rubbed off. So what happens is you get sort of an overall impression that there was passage through here by comparing the undisturbed part right here with over here where there was a lot of disturbance and fresh breakage, and it just looks different. So when you get a little closer, you can see those details up close. Like these fresh breaks here. And that big one right there. And right here where there was a bark that got knocked off by the tires. So the parallel lines go through there. Up to the next fallen tree. Here's another little interesting bit where there's forest duff thrown on top of these leaves. So this was a fallen tree. It was on top of the soil. And the tires spinning kicked back all this stuff onto the leaves. If you take it off, you'll see the leaves are clean underneath it. So they were photosynthesizing. Even though this tree has fallen, it is still connected to the ground, still trying to live, and it might have a chance of at least sprouting somewhat, but it did have green leaves that were facing the sun, and that debris got kicked up by the tires of the vehicle. Here is a break in the plant, which may or may not correspond to the size of the tire, the width of the tire. Looks like there's several breaks here, so I can't say that for sure. So that's the other thing. In here, you really can't get the actual width of a tire to measure because there aren't clear tracks. So you'd have to follow this long enough to find a place where it crossed what we call a track trap, which is open soil that holds tracks well and shows the details. So something like a molehill or a cleared patch of dirt road, something like that, a mud puddle, might show the tracks better. Next tree is right up here. Again, I'm just following disturbance. And here's another foxglove plant. And note the flattening here where the tire rolled over it. And you turn the leaves over, you can see the bruising. So flipping them over shows you more of that damage from the impact of the tires on the leaves. So they were all kind of squashed into the ground by the weight of the vehicle. This one was broken off, and you can still see bruising. This is over 24 hours old now, so this is on my second day of trailing this. So the good news as a tracker is that this person made a lot of sign through here to follow. I'm not going to go through right here because it's pretty rough, but I'm going to circle around. There's an easier way across this tree and through all this stuff. But I want to show you that. But from this angle, you can see that the tires really had to dig in right here and here. And they dug up a lot of soil, a lot of mud. Looks like they had some trouble getting over this log right here. So I want to show you that from the other side of this fallen tree, but I'm going to go around it. Again, in here, here's some blackberry vines that show they've been knocked over and they've been broken in several places. Breaks here and here, right here, by the weight of the vehicle. That one was broken off and is sitting there loose with the leaves facing the wrong direction. So the light side of the leaf normally faces down and the green side faces up. When you see the leaves like that, that helps to indicate that there's been disturbance or something has passed through here, or someone. Okay, so I went around and I was over there before. Now I'm on the other side to show you this. See how there is a rut right here, dug in by the tire, and bark has been scraped off of that. You can see breaks on this fallen branch. You can see broken branches down here, and you can see some broken off vegetation where the tire kicked things backwards. Same thing over here. Right here, notice how the bark was scraped off. So the tire was rolling this direction, but when they roll that way, they kick back. And so that's why this bark was scraped backwards in that direction. Here's a piece of it down here. It belonged right there. So, see the vegetation down there? Those are the blackberry vines. They've been covered with mud and crushed into the ground. So this rut is dug in very deeply. There's even a deer track right there. That's helpful for aging because I know this is not fresh sign unless the deer was just here. So overall, you've got a tremendous amount of sign right here. Just a lot of things that indicate passage through this narrow spot, and that they had some difficulty getting over this log. Even though they've been over other logs, for some reason this one gave them some trouble. Here's something cool right next to the trail of the ATV is a black bear trail. So it is, yeah, I guess it's the first day of spring right now, so the bears are out and doing their thing. Right now, they're eating grass. And you can see there's abundant grass right here, so they have plenty of food. And it appears the bear's trail is heading the same direction that the ATV trail went. The ATV trail in this grass is really obvious and easy to follow. Nothing like it was back there in the forest duff. Kind of difficult to sort out in there, but this stuff's easy. Here's our ATV rider coming to another log and unable to get over the log, backed up, and then went where I'm standing, up a slope. I need to get off so I can film it, but so he came up here and originally tried to get over this log, couldn't do it, and then backed up and went up that way. And then found he couldn't get out that way and came back down the same direction. Quite lost. Here are some tracks. So this is what I was talking about a track trap, where you can actually see the pattern on the tire. So you can actually measure it and get whatever you need out of it. So one thing I spoke about in the video yesterday when I was following this trail was reading the intentions in the trail, and something I wanted to mention is that this individual on the ATV was exploring or coming and going, not really seeming to show knowledge of the area in the trail. So if this person had known where they were and where they were going, they wouldn't have needed to go up the trail and then come back down and go, over his own trail over and over again to try and find his way out of here. He would have known where he was, and the trail would have reflected that because there would have been different choices made. So instead of kind of making this wandering trail that meanders all over the place, it would have been a more direct approach and would have gone directly towards the exit rather than trying to find the exit, seeking it out by going up and down and trying to find where it is, as this person did. So that's one way of reading the intentions in the trail, or maybe I should say the familiarity of the person that made the trail with the area. So I'm backtracking this trail through the pine needles here to find how it got out there to the field. And I see where it went up the embankment right there, the tire tracks. And in here, it's way more difficult because this is pine needles and it's wet. And I'm just seeing disturbance. So I am seeing a trail come through there, which seems to be the only place that they could come from in that direction. So right through here. A couple of bear scats right here. Now, which way from here? That's looking kind of good over there. There's a log right there. I'm going to try this one. So this is what you have to do, is check the different routes, especially when it's not really obvious. So I'm going to follow this one up a little ways and see if it goes anywhere or shows me any better sign. There's some disturbances here, but remember, there's bear in here, there are deer in here, so that's a maybe. Well, I don't know. Let's see. There's this right here, which looks really disturbed, but I want more evidence. So this is the thing you have to do, is kind of follow things around and see where you can find the best evidence that your vehicle came through. So there's not a lot here. A break right there in that stick, and some more breaks right here that I can see kind of disturbed. But there's this right here, which I came up, but you know, that can be also foraging, so I want to make sure this is a trail before I decide on it. There are a few breaks in here on this side as well, so maybe this is it. It sure is not obvious in here either, and you would expect, you know, that you might see more sign in here, but it's not that easy to see it, even though an ATV went through here. So that's a deer trail, it looks like. So if the ATV came through here, it possibly followed the deer trail, or came through this way. Okay, well, here's some broken branches here. Maybe it came this way instead of that way, because that certainly doesn't look as disturbed. So the mark you see here is from long-term use by deer. So that's not our ATV. I think this might be the ATV right here, because there's a lot more disturbance and broken branches type thing in here. So what happened is, I went beyond my last good tracks, which you shouldn't do, and I got off on the trail where the person was going around and around trying to find their way out with this ATV. And I think they backtracked over here. That's what I'm trying to find right now. Okay, so the batteries died and I had to change it. I'm thinking this might be it because of the disturbance here, but I'm not quite positive yet. I mean, there are turkeys in here, there are deer, there are all kinds of animals that are digging around in the brush. And I'm seeing branches that are not broken here, so I think I chose the wrong route. I don't think they went this way. I could be wrong, but not sure quite yet. So I need to do a little more digging around here and see what I can find. So this was where I made my mistake. I made some assumptions here that I shouldn't have. Number one, that they got over that log. It does not appear that they got over the log. And the depth of those marks right there seems to indicate that they probably backed out and took another route. And this is where I got off the trail and got all confused in the, got distracted. Because I found so much bear sign over there, I decided to go look at all the bear sign, and I wasn't concentrating on the ATV trail anymore. So, yeah, a little flight of fancy there. Anyway, this is where I got off the trail because I misinterpreted this, and I think that they backed out of here and took a route down here. So the one I found a moment ago may or may not have been it. There's this one which seems a lot more obvious to me. As far as if you're driving around with an ATV and trying to get out of someplace, you're going to take the easiest route, not something that takes you over a bunch of logs. There is disturbance here. And again, remember, there's a lot of wildlife out here. So I need to confirm with other evidence. I am seeing some flattening on this vegetation and broken broken blades of grass. So I'm going to follow this one out a little bit. So when you lose the trail, you try to find it again, and that means kind of checking out the different trails that are available and seeing if the one that you found is the right one or not. And not sure about this one because there's not any sign on these here that's obvious. There's this right here where there are some knocked over plants. So that's a possibility right there. There's this right here, which could be a turnaround, which would not surprise me. If you're trying to find a route, you may turn around and back up and try to find the best way to go. The broken vegetation here seems to indicate that this might have been the case. But remember, I'm doing this live, so what you're hearing is the kind of thought processes that you go through when you're trailing something, and a lot of times you're just not sure you're on the right trail. So let's follow this one out. Just see where it goes. So what kind of animals make sign out here? Well, squirrels, deer, turkeys, the bears. Primarily the ones that are going to be digging are the squirrels, and there's birds that forage on the ground too. So all this sign on the ground could be from foraging birds and deer, which makes things more complicated. Plus this trail is 48 hours old. Right here, there's a nice break in this this branch. So that's the best trail that I've seen so far. So I'm thinking that this is the one. It's super obscure. So these ferns here are showing a little bit of a push that direction, which could have happened when the undercarriage of the vehicle knocked them this way. So you don't hear much crackling because this ground is wet. We've had about 30 inches of rain, and it's still fairly wet early in the season. And later on in the year, it's going to get crackling dry, and that's when you'll be able to just hear everything crunch. And when somebody drives over it, it's certainly going to leave more sign than it is right now, because this stuff is very springy. So what I'm hoping for here is to get confirmation of the trail, and that could come if I find some good vegetation knocked over. Right now I'm seeing very subtle things. Nothing that's super obvious. And I'm looking for something a lot more obvious to confirm the trail. I do know where it came out. It's just a matter of finding which route they took to get to that point. So that's what I'm looking for in here. There's not a lot of this spring vegetation that's knocked over, but there are occasional broken branches, which to me seem to be the best evidence I'm going to find in here. So here's another fresh break, another one right there, and a knocked over fern. So this is pretty good evidence right here that I'm on the right trail. Okay, here you go. So here's some knocked over grasses bent over in the direction of travel. And notice how the fern leaves have been pushed this way. So they normally face towards the sun, and they've been knocked that direction. Very subtle. Yeah, here's some knocked over grasses. Here's a fern leaf that was broken off the plant. So right through here. So there is a small ridge right there that shows travel through here. And more knocked over plants here. You would think following an ATV would be a whole lot easier than this. But apparently it's not. It just depends on your terrain. I mean, if this was sand, it would be easy. this damp stuff. Kind of hard to do. Oh, look, there's a skull. Whose skull? Looks like it was a jackrabbit skull. So, back to the trail here. Now I brought it back to where I know they came out. So, that was the trail. Subtle as it might have been. There are the bear scats. And then those tire marks come through here. So here's pretty good disturbance. And then they sort of took a run at it from here, so you can see more evidence here than you can back here, where it was just scraped up ground a little bit. So this is it right here. They came through right here, took a little bit of a run at this embankment here, which is maybe 3 feet high, to get out into the field. So this is how they got out, and here's where they put most of the effort into getting up the embankment, and a lot of soil was pushed back. And the same with this, the rotting log. So, that was kind of fun. What you saw happen there happens all the time in tracking. You will lose the trail, and sometimes you're just going to misinterpret it. And you have to go back and figure it out from where you last had a good trail. And in this case, it was a little ways back there, where I thought they had gone over a log and they didn't. So, I'm trying to do this live so you can see the process, how I do this. This is not how you would, follow an animal, obviously. This is an ATV, it's a 48-hour-old trail. And if you're following animals, it's better to follow fresh trails if you want to have a chance of seeing them. But for this one, just for the purposes of being able to show a trail that I followed through here and how you would go about doing it, this is a good demonstration because the sign is a lot more, it's a lot larger than what you would have with wildlife sign, which is way more subtle. So there are challenges and there are rewards. And obviously I'm not doing this to try to catch up to this ATV. There's no way I can do that. It's an old trail, and I'm just doing this as a tracker. I have no law enforcement, whatever, trying to do it for that reason. I'm just doing it because my neighbor told me about it and tracked it over to here and pointed out, that they had left and gave me a timeline. And so I followed it up from there just to see what I could find and what I could learn on the trail. And I hope this was a good learning experience for you. And gives you some look at the challenges of different substrates in different parts of the world. Well, kind of as a conclusion, I wanted to sort of review and say that we have followed this on many different types of terrain, from pine needles and forest duff, tan oak leaves, dirt road, grass, like this wonderful stuff, and over logs. And I hope that it's been a really good learning experience for you. It's definitely been a learning experience for me, and very humbling as well. I'm certainly not a perfect tracker. I lose the trail all the time, and that's just the way it is when you do this. It's you're gonna lose the trail, and then you're gonna find it again, and you're gonna make mistakes, and that's just normal. So don't worry about it. It happens to everybody, and even when it's an easy trail like this, like an ATV, which is heavier than most of the animals out here, and should have been a real easy trail to follow, but I sure made some doozies of mistakes there. But you just kind of have to deal with it, sort it out, and figure it out, and go back and find where you made your mistakes, try to resolve them, pick up the trail again, and just have fun with it. This is not something I'm doing for a serious I guess not a serious purpose. I'm not trying to retrieve this ATV. It's long gone, and you know, that's not my goal. It's not mine. Whoever's it is, they'll deal with it however they have to deal with it. But for me, this was just a challenging tracking exercise, and I thought it might be a good learning experience to make a video, because I knew there were going to be mistakes on the trail, and you know, I knew that there were going to be things that would stump me and places I would have a difficult time following this. So I thought it was an interesting learning experience, and that you might enjoy some insight into how to follow a trail and the sort of things that go through your mind. And that's why I was trying to tell you as I went what I was thinking and what I was seeing and why I was making certain decisions. So hopefully that came through, and my hope is that this is instructive and that you get something out of it to use in your own tracking, and even if it's just to avoid my mistakes, you know, even if it's just that, then it's better than nothing. So I hope you've enjoyed, and next time let's pick a different animal. I don't know what it'll be. It just depends on what I find. So hopefully you've enjoyed and learned something along with me. I definitely learned a lot, and it was fun. So thank you for watching. See you on the next one.